The birth did not take place at Frogmore Cottage as quite a few people had anticipated, but instead occurred in a hospital located in London. Although Meghan had openly expressed her preference for delivering at home, it made complete sense that her initial baby, arriving when she was 37 years old, would come into the world within a medical facility. The official record specifies the upscale private Portland hospital situated in Westminster. Feedback regarding Prince Harry and Meghan's high-cost Netflix production has generally been unfavorable up to this point. The publication known as Variety, often regarded as the authoritative voice in Hollywood, described it as lacking originality and quite irritating. The Guardian, frequently seen as a progressive standard, called it so overly sentimental that it nearly caused the reviewer to lose their morning meal. On initial observation, the way Meghan Markle revealed her expectant state appeared to be a scene drawn directly from a contemporary romantic legend. Gentle illumination, a radiant expression, one palm softly placed upon her abdomen, the other intertwined with that of Prince Harry. This picture aligned precisely with what the global audience anticipated and even insisted upon. A member of the dukedom carrying a child, historical patterns recreating themselves in a polished, perfectly suited for social media style. Yet very quickly, certain aspects fell off. Not in an obvious or explosive manner, but subtly sufficient to cause individuals to hesitate. Those who closely follow royal matters picked up on it prior to journalists. The visible swell of her pregnancy appeared variable. Not artificial or implausible, simply erratic. More pronounced during one period, clearly reduced shortly afterward, positioned higher in certain outings, then lower in others merely days apart. Initially, those who supported her hurried to offer reasons. Perspectives from photographs, choices in attire, body positioning, photographic equipment can alter appearances significantly, correct? However, the pattern continued repeatedly, to the extent that observers ceased dismissing it casually and began capturing images for comparison. Meghan severely damaged whatever remained of her connections with the royal household, along with, to be honest, whatever remained of her and Harry's public standing. The previous week had largely involved exhaustion from excessive admiration. What added to the peculiarity was the sharp difference in experiences. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, had emerged from the Lindo wing merely hours following delivery, wearing shoes with elevation, hair neatly arranged, cradling her infant for the photographers. This was not solely for appearance. It represented reliability. The practice had evolved into a key element of the monarchy's symbolic communication. One delivers the child, presents the infant publicly, provides reassurance to the nation. Meghan, in comparison, was crafting a completely different approach. From the beginning, individuals near her shared excitement about plans for birth at home. Frogmore Cottage was portrayed as a peaceful haven, serene, secluded, aligned with nature, a clear departure from traditional royal formality. It matched ideally with the persona Meghan was building, contemporary, aware, fully directing her own path. The general populace went along with it easily. For what reason would they object? She had firmly indicated her lack of desire to follow established customs. Then the date of May 6, 2019, came, and abruptly the account altered. No delivery at home, no tranquil setting at Frogmore. Meghan had brought her son into the world at London's Portland Hospital. Once more, choosing a hospital for birth is neither rare nor contentious nor worthy of doubt. That aspect was never the concern. The concern arose from the absence of any reason given for the alteration. No single comment, no official update, no courteous note indicating that circumstances had shifted due to professional medical guidance. The storyline simply turned direction in a single night, and quiet filled the resulting void. Photographers, reporters, and outlets tracked his activities constantly throughout each day. When someone constructs a public tale so openly, particularly one centered on principles such as organic lifestyles, personal space, and self-determination, audiences anticipate at minimum a basic account when that tale falls apart. In its place, there was zero response. Officials from the palace offered no details. Meghan provided no comment. Media professionals were forced to speculate. That absence of communication carried weight because when individuals detect that information is being deliberately shaped instead of shared openly, interest transforms into distrust. And that is precisely the point at which online communities perform their usual role. They delve deeper. Past discussions were viewed again. Public events were examined in slow motion, stopped at keyframes, enlarged for detail. Comparisons placed next to each other overwhelmed various platforms. The abdominal curve turned into the main subject. During certain events, Meghan proceeded cautiously, easing herself gradually into seating, both hands positioned safeguardingly over her midsection. On other occasions, often within brief intervals, she ascended steps quickly, turned without effort, displayed complete freedom of movement. Experiences of carrying a child vary greatly among women. Certainly, yet the stark differences over such limited periods drew attention. This did not stem from a lone, uncomfortable recording. It formed from repeated observations, appearing heavily advanced in pregnancy whenever photographers were prominently positioned, showing full mobility when attention was elsewhere. Discussion groups online became active, starting not with direct claims but with inquiries. In what way can the shape alter so significantly in so little time? For what reason do the schedules seem compressed? Why does the entire situation appear so meticulously directed? Afterward arrived the postponement. Rather than the customary notifications soon after delivery, Meghan and Harry held off for 2 full days prior to introducing Archie publicly. Once again, seeking seclusion is not wrongdoing, but established practices hold importance within royal systems since those practices serve as openness. Departing from them without rationale leads others to presume there exists something undesired for viewing. Those offering critique did not make outright charges. They raised points for consideration. And points left unanswered pose risks when responses fail to arrive. I intend to express my thoughts directly. All right. This amounts to a lengthy session dedicated to criticizing our royal household, the institution of monarchy, and all that the late Queen devoted such effort toward building. At that stage, purportedly confidential records started to appear in circulation. Calendars of arrangements, records of visits, schedules that apparently documented Meghan's activities throughout her expectant period. Should those records prove correct, they did not merely conflict with the outward account, they created significant gaps within it. Medical visits noted for dates when photographs captured Meghan participating in gatherings elsewhere in the city. Not marginal coincidences or schedulings that timing might justify. Full days during which documentation indicated one reality while visual evidence displayed another. Nobody verified the authenticity of those materials, yet nobody refuted them either. They remained present, without challenge or response. Within the arena of widespread perception, lack of comment does not diminish assertions, it strengthens them. This is the juncture where Piers Morgan became involved with the restraint of a demolition device. Vocal, without apology, and clearly relishing each moment, Morgan presented the whole debate as deliberate shaping of events. During broadcasts, he brandished documents, referenced specific dates, showed footage repeatedly. His inquiries were not soft. He charged that the account of the pregnancy had been manufactured instead of genuinely experienced. His boldest assertion involved this detail. Supposedly, several drafts of the announcement for Archie's arrival had been prepared prior to the actual birth. Varied phrasing, alternate schedules, differing specifics, everything ready beforehand. In Morgan's view, this was not anxious preparation. It represented marketing strategy. What individual prepares for parenthood in the manner of a public relations campaign, he questioned. Then, importantly, Meghan and Harry offered no reply. No rejection of the idea, no effort to set matters straight, no thoughtfully composed response. 4 partners recognized for rapid counterstatements and interaction with media. This quiet stood out profoundly, particularly from Harry, someone whose public persona centered entirely on safeguarding his loved ones from inaccurate reports. In this instance, he remained mute. As time progressed, those in support started to hesitate. Across digital spaces, the atmosphere altered. Reduced indignation, increased unease. Individuals ceased labeling it as harassment and began wondering aloud why no straightforward account emerged. The discussion with Oprah, previously viewed as beyond reproach, received renewed examination. Morgan analyzed Meghan's manner of speaking moment by moment. The hesitations, the almost emerging moisture in eyes that stayed dry, the feeling-driven segments that seemed recognizable to anyone familiar with her prior conversations. In his opinion, this was not genuine openness. It represented rehearsed openness. Once viewers begin doubting authenticity, the entire dynamic shifts. Material that previously seemed sincere now appears arranged. Each hesitation seems planned. Each display of feeling looks practiced. That represents the risk associated with excessive management. In time, even accurate accounts begin to resemble written lines. This is the area where the situation evolved from mere talk into a much graver harm. No isolated charge, no particular image, but the build-up, altering schedules, absence of replies, supposed documentation, carefully managed visuals. Combined, these elements wore down confidence. This did not represent an instant outburst of controversy. It developed gradually, without fanfare, steadily. Once uncertainty establishes itself, it does not announce its presence. It remains present, since reliability, after being placed under doubt, never fully recovers its prior strength. When the whispers finally arrived within judicial settings, the matter had already moved beyond gossip columns and into a far riskier domain, official documentation. That marked the turning point where circumstances alter dramatically because casual conversation can be ignored. Unverified talk can be brushed aside. However, the instant a topic receives mention, even indirectly, within declarations under oath, documents submitted, or witness accounts, it ceases to be background chatter and becomes potential liability. That is when Harry's reaction intensified. Not an open view initially, not captured on film. The intensity built privately, through extended telephone discussions late at night, through gatherings where staff members shared meaningful glances while speaking minimally. From accounts by individuals near the lawyers, Harry did not display rage in the typical sensational manner. He appeared anxious, maintaining composure yet strained. The sort of pressure arising from understanding that direction of events was slipping away. The lawsuit against the Daily Mail was intended to follow a straightforward path. Media oversteps. Boundaries. Harry initiates action. Values receive defense. Journalism faces accountability. It suited his perspective on life ideally. Outlets had contributed to his mother's fate. He refused to permit similar treatment toward his spouse. However, then the submitted papers arrived, and hidden among standard phrasing were expressions that caused his counselors to pause. Not direct charges, not final judgments, simply recognitions, allusions to inside exchanges, notes about possible mismatches in outward declarations, additional references that neither blamed nor overlooked, dangers embedded in law. Because the moment a judicial body recognizes the presence of inquiries, those inquiries gain legitimacy. Legitimacy opens pathways to evidence gathering, official demands, applications for documents, verifications from health providers, records of discussions, precisely the materials Harry had vowed to safeguard as private. This scenario represented the worst possibility. Within the group handling law, opinions divided. Certain members recommended caution. Limit the scope. Maintain emphasis solely on a legal acquisition of details. Avoid broadening attention. Avoid sparking interest. Others advocated direct engagement. Refute all points firmly. Compel the proceedings to remain focused. Harry sought decisive victory. He desired the opposing view eliminated, not merely contained. Extending even to declarations such as, "Members of the royal family desire my end. I view them as a form of psychological aggressors." Many in the United States perceive Prince Harry at times as someone who emotionally manipulates by inventing or amplifying difficulties. As reported by a source nearby, he struck the surface firmly in one session and declared, "No one is permitted to doubt my loved ones, period." This was not reason legally. It stemmed from deep conviction. Convictions rooted in feeling perform poorly within judicial environments, because those settings prioritize evidence over emotional impact. And evidence presented the core difficulty. Away from public eyes, stresses mounted. Messages were reviewed again, schedules examined closely, specific dates confirmed multiple times against images released long before. Each outing while expecting turned into potential weakness. Each response during discussions risked inconsistency. What seemed innocent back in 2019 now appeared calculated upon reflection. For what reason did Meghan stress seclusion so emphatically while granting chosen entry? Why decline standard royal health procedures, yet utilize exclusive facilities connected to privileged circles? Why share details piecemeal instead of comprehensive accounts? Separately, these held no significance. Collectively, they suggested deliberate direction. Deliberate direction, under close review, invariably prompts one inquiry: direction toward what purpose? The significant judicial development did not arrive as a sudden disclosure. It emerged through standard progression, an application, straightforward in nature, routine annually in countless instances, seeking only elucidation, not demonstration, not revelation, merely elucidation. The overseeing official neither charged nor guessed. The note simply observed that noticeable public variances had grown relevant to surrounding circumstances. When surrounding circumstances hold importance, accounts of them do as well. Harry reportedly became quiet upon learning, no eruption, no address, simply extended stillness because this no longer involved media. This was not Piers Morgan broadcasting loudly from a set. This represented the justice framework, courteously requesting logical consistency. Logical consistency demands verifiable details. That evening, per reports from sources, Harry walked back and forth. Meghan kept steady demeanor. That contrast held meaning. He cycled through possible outcomes, official demands for information, sworn questioning sessions, health experts summoned to speak, personal medical seclusion breached due to requirements of law. Meghan, on the other hand, concentrated on communication approach because there resided the true division. Harry pursued safeguarding via direct opposition. Meghan sought safeguarding via mastery of storyline. Those approaches do not necessarily coincide. The ensuing period blurred into constant adjustments of plan. Draft responses were created, revised, ultimately discarded. Counselors suggested quiet, then pressed for action. Public goodwill persisted yet diminished. Digital conversations transitioned from strong objection to detailed breakdown. Backers shifted from fierce protection to providing reasons. That shift rarely signals strength. In parallel, journalistic circles detected opportunity not from possessing proof, but from the break in usual royal response patterns. This pair had historically addressed issues rapidly, from newspaper titles to offhand remarks. Now confronting a weightier matter, they offered no words. Quiet, yet again, conveyed volume. What deeply unsettled Harry was not potential revelation. It was forfeiture of direction. For the initial occasion, the account no longer belonged to them for shaping. External parties, focused solely on precision, not image or heritage, were forming it through dates, submitted documents, and processes. At that point, accounts surfaced. Accounts of intense discussions with counselors, of Harry charging his staff with insufficient resolve, of Meghan maintaining that responding to talk would grant it validity, of both recognizing, possibly delayed, that postponed openness multiplies doubt. The proceedings continued without sudden bursts, gradually, through required steps. Each document added burden, each reference to surrounding factors increased constraint, and the cruel irony stood clear. Harry had entered the judicial arena to reveal media tactics. Instead, the arena started reviewing his account, not charging it directly, simply reviewing it. When the subsequent session neared, harm had already occurred. Confidence had weakened, not vanished entirely, but sufficiently for impartial viewers to voice similar thoughts. For what reason not simply provide a clear response? That inquiry lingered with Harry, because resolution lacked simplicity. Resolution involved accessing areas he had labored years to secure. It involved welcoming examination he had pledged to block from his household. Most frightening, it involved yielding direction over the account. For an individual whose persona formed around opposing journalism, that represented supreme defeat. This no longer concerned legal action alone. It concerned whether a meticulously presented account could endure close inspection, and whether quiet, previously employed as defense, had reversed to harm from within. Yet the following development surprised observers. No bold announcements appeared, no major disclosures leaked, merely document applications, set dates, schedules populated with appointments nobody wished to face. This marked where Harry's steadiness genuinely faltered. Because the judicial process did not inquire about events themselves. It inquired about timing. Timing represents the riskiest inquiry possible. Timing converts feeling into calculation. Timing transforms recollection into documentation. Timing compels accounts to align precisely beside one another without discrepancy. They failed to align perfectly. The issue did not arise from one isolated mismatch. It built from multiple small elements. A remark in one place that failed to match an image elsewhere. An official comment that appeared certain until compared with a prior one equally firm yet subtly varied. These did not qualify as falsehoods precisely. They represented accounts adjusted for varying listeners across moments. Judicial settings disfavor such flexibility. In readiness for upcoming stages, Harry received firm counsel to anticipate potential sworn accounts. Not inevitably his personally, but from others, health specialists, protection personnel, communication staff, individuals previously peripheral now moving forward. Each carried potential hazard because confidentiality agreements can limit speech yet cannot delete recollections. When judicial requirement demands participation, allegiance shifts to obligation. Here Harry's feeling of disloyalty grew acute. In this perspective, he sensed encirclement not by opponents but by unknowns. He pondered who possessed which knowledge, who had shared what with others, which discussions carried records, which relied solely on memory. He posed to his group a query that quieted everyone. Who additional might receive summons? The potential names exceeded his anticipation. That evening, strain overflowed, not through raised voices, but through cooler distance. Meghan restated her stance. Maintain position. Avoid excessive response. The matter concerned illegal media actions, not private existence. Broadening focus would merely encourage conjecture. Harry held differing view. Experience had taught him painfully that conjecture does not diminish when overlooked. It expands. He held belief, perhaps optimistically, that direct openness could still conclude matters. A declaration, a clear boundary, something solid to halt inquiries. Yet solid declarations demand solid details, and details once declared remain fixed. That impasse persisted. As time advanced, Harry's outward manner altered. He seemed strained during commitments, unfocused in events designed to display steady determination. Those observing noted change. Reduced intensity, increased pressure. The appearance of individual engaged in conflict diverging from planned course. Journalists, naturally, detected it as well. Yet escalation truly stemmed from one routine advancement most overlooked. A submission, citing relevance of materials. Brief phrasing, standard in law. Except relevance of materials indicated judicial determination that individual background influenced evaluation of reliability. Reliability under question unlocks pathways difficult to seal. Harry reportedly inquired of his lawyers if proceedings could end through withdrawal. Response carried complexity. Possible in theory, yet ending would not delete prior submissions. It would not remove mentions already documented, and it would generate additional inquiries. For what reason halt currently? Why withdraw as examination grew? Ending would appear as concession, and Harry lacked training in concession. Simultaneously, Meghan's approach solidified. She directed attention externally. Engagements for good causes, selected initiatives, messaging managed to highlight meaning, endurance, advancement. For her, continued activity provided safeguard. Remain present, remain active, remain elevated beyond disturbance. Yet disturbance no longer resided externally. It existed within proceedings. Within proceedings, attorneys discussed concessions without true yielding, elucidations without new access, responses to possible scenarios without validating assumptions. Here phrasing in law turns skillful. We dispute the description provided. No grounds exist for assumption. The individual bringing claim refutes suggested meaning. Each expression exact, each avoiding commitment, each to outsiders resembling evasion. Harry disliked this intensely. He viewed the wording as lacking vitality, timid, overly cautious. He desired firmer stance. A boundary etched permanently, yet permanence fractures under force as well. In parallel, the presiding official's tolerance decreased, not toward the pair, but toward lack of clarity. Judicial environments prioritize prompt resolution. They dislike repeated loops over identical points. As resistance to clarity grew evident, examination deepened. This remained impersonal. It followed requirement. That separation provided little relief. Privately, Harry started reflecting on past choices, talks, resolutions. The instant he recognized extent of curation in their lives, not merely safeguarding, he pondered silently, with remorse, if his drive to protect had occasionally bordered on participation, not intentional misleading but withholding. That awareness frightened him, because withholding under judicial review remains deliberate selection. As the third segment concluded, proceedings reached decision point. Either focus would tighten, returning solely to media actions, or expand, drawing individual past further into open review. No path offered cleanliness. Journalists anticipated, audiences guessed. Backers divided into groups, those demanding total seclusion, those questioning apparent selectivity in seclusion. Harry existed amid those perspectives, growing more alone. He had entered judicial process to shield household from invasion. Now process requested he define limits he had established. For the initial time, he lacked certainty about their true placement. The intense period had not fully arrived. Yet atmosphere felt weighted. All participants understood forthcoming developments would follow requirement, not direction from media, official residents, or communication experts. Requirement, once initiated, continues regardless of desire for calm. When the concluding segment came, no pretense remained for safeguarding. What Harry once viewed as managed opposition to journalism had shifted into deeper unease. Gradual, systematic review of reliability personally. Not charges broadcast in sensational papers, but inquiries entered calmly within official papers. Inquiries that avoided scorn or ridicule. Inquiries merely seeking correspondence. Correspondence no longer fully present. The decisive moment arrived without fanfare. No major disclosure, no striking title, simply routine directive seeking elucidation on variances previously observed. Wording remained courteous, nearly mild, yet consequences severe. Elucidate. That term stayed with Harry. Elucidation required selecting single account among possibilities. It required reducing varied versions into one permanent line open to challenge. Analysis, eternal recall. It required abandoning adaptability, the element permitting survival in public view thus far. He moved restlessly for long periods the evening notice came. Not with anger, with unease. He mentally reviewed discussions, not solely his, but Meghan's, now hearing them as judicial review might. Not through feeling but framework, placement of hesitations, use of absolutes, quiet removal of conditions. Thus when Archie Mountbatten Windsor arrived on May 6, 2019, this event carried surrounding debate primarily due to non-traditional choices Prince Harry and Meghan Markle made concerning seclusion, schedules, and outward sharing. None seemed risky initially. Risk emerged only later because repetitions of accounts caused echoes. Meghan maintained steady presence. She grasped narrative strength more naturally than Harry. For her, accounts lived dynamically. They adapted. They shifted with situation. She held firm belief that purpose outweighed exactness. Purpose, in her mind, remained truthful throughout. Yet judicial measurement focuses on documentation, not purpose. Strain between them avoided open clash. Clashes proved unnecessary. Strain existed in quiet moments, postponed choices, extended looks, discussions concluding with suggestions to return later that never occurred. Harry recognized something more disturbing than judicial hazard. They no longer pursued identical goal. He sought restoration of confidence. She sought retention of direction. Neither goal erred, yet directions diverged. Journalists detected subtly yet accurately. Reporting adjusted, reduced fury, increased breakdown, less simple opposition framing, greater emphasis on order, requirement, outcome, attention type removing protective drama. Backers observed as well. Some intensified loyalty, asserting no obligation existed for sharing health schedules or private reasons. Others quieted, uncertainty growing, not opposition, merely pause. Pause poses risk for visible figures. It indicates question. The concluding session approached steadily, neither advancing nor retreating. Each choice now seemed permanent. End and seem avoidant. Proceed and face potential revelation. Elucidate and fix account eternally. Remain quiet and permit external definition. Harry sensed confinement by choices once viewed as liberating. You understand, it is inconsistent to claim these individuals treated us harshly and feel sympathy for our position while rejecting desire for focus, then produce written work detailing rejection of focus. In an unrecorded private instant, he acknowledged inwardly exhaustion. Not from outlets, not from detractors, but from sustaining account, perpetual watchfulness, constant adjustment of expressible elements, implied aspects, directly avoided topics. He pondered when safeguarding seclusion transformed into preserving unclear areas. Concluding documents received submission with extreme precision, each term reviewed, each expression removed of embellishment. Feeling-driven wording once powering public connection vanished, substituted by neutrality, so complete it seemed unfamiliar. Yet underlying strain persisted without resolution. Judicial process did not shatter account. Shattering proved unnecessary. Instead, it achieved greater impact. It restricted, simplified, eliminated feeling supports, reviewed solely required elements for resolution. Through this, it quietly confirmed growing public awareness. Matter no longer concerned solely journalism. It concerned logical flow. When decision arrived, it remained balanced. Neither full victory Harry once envisioned nor total defeat opponents foresaw. Partial outcome. Certain points accepted, others rejected. Wording commending some positions while softly weakening others. Area of legal ambiguity. Ambiguity endures. True effect lay not in decision content. It lay in aftermath. Initially, Harry avoided hasty reply. No declaration, no shaped response, no prompt effort to guide understanding. He permitted quiet to remain, not planned but required. Meghan returned to initiatives, timetable steady, outward steadiness preserved. If internal shift occurred, display avoided it. She consistently held that continued progress countered examination. Harry lacked similar conviction now. He reduced involvement, not fully from public view, but from forefront. Reduced events, lesser opinions, quiet adjustment noticeable mainly to close watchers. Not withdrawal, reevaluation. Journalists progressed as usual, yet remnants lingered. Not precise controversy, not clear justification, merely ongoing feeling of basic alteration. Account once delivered with total assurance now softened around boundaries. Soft boundaries encourage fresh interpretation. In future years, scholars would doubtless discuss this era without end. Mishandled, exaggerated, unavoidable. Clash of current communication and long-standing traditions, individual reality versus shared responsibility, likely combination. Yet for Harry, understanding proved direct and challenging. Intrusion can receive opposition. Inaccurate details can receive opposition. Even large organizations can receive opposition. Yet when personal account becomes combat zone, each advance carries cost. Ultimately, no disaster occurred. No sudden collapse, no conclusive revelation, no closing settlement pleasing all. Instead, realistic outcome appeared. Gradual wearing of assurance, unquestioned confidence, faith that direction alone safeguarded reality. Harry avoided dramatic break, as sensational reports prefer. Break occurred inwardly, quietly, upon recognizing fought conflict had altered form in certain conflicts. Harry grew able to detect it even when unnoticed by others, particularly then. Greatest surprise for him lay not in objection. He experienced that throughout life. It lay in adjusted anticipation. Audiences no longer anticipated eagerly his words, seeking persuasion. They observed cautiously, checking alignment. That alteration proved quiet yet permanent. Meghan proceeded confidently. Initiatives began. Events occurred. Wording stayed refined, compassionate, certain. Externally, she appeared consistent. To Harry, she appeared directed, intensely toward future. He valued that quality in her. Always had. Yet value failed to remove increasing awareness of mismatched internal rhythms. One late night, after surroundings quieted, Harry remained alone with unused prepared materials. Key phrases, elucidations, declarations never issued. He understood then preparation, had targeted explaining matter no longer requiring explanation because listeners had determined acceptable level of unclear areas. Not wrongdoing, not blamelessness, unclear areas. Unclear areas, once revealed, alter reception of all coming statements. He experienced no rage. He experienced recognition, not yielding. Recognition of boundaries, of reality that certain accounts, extended to safeguard core elements, eventually strain structural integrity. They curved from internal pressure. Audiences would advance. They consistently did. Fresh debates, fresh targets, fresh admired figures. Yet remnants of this would persist like subtle mark, unseen without close view, irremovable once recognized. Harry selected calmer territory afterward. Not disappearance, merely purpose. He ceased addressing each wrong understanding. He ceased preparing for each report. He concentrated on efforts lacking need for justification, type independent of acceptance. Gradually, unforeseen shift occurred. Quiet once dreaded began sensing genuine. Not calculated, not protective, genuine. Meghan observed alteration. Naturally, she always observed. They discussed, not intensely, not oppositionally, but cautiously. Like individuals managing delicate shared treasure desiring preservation. Affection persisted. It adapted. Adaptation defines affection enduring strain. External world would never reach full consensus on events, absences, priorities. That, Harry understood, might approach nearest possible reality. Assurance represented illusion regardless. Remaining proved quieter, more demanding to display, existence without requiring flawless account delivery. In distant future, when reviewing this segment, debates would cover appearances and purposes, schedules and delivery. Footage and documents would receive analysis like relics from era fixated on exposure. Yet Harry would recall differently. Instant learning direction differs from logical flow. An occasionally most significant break occurs internally. When release finally happens of account version believed essential for safeguarding, embracing version merely present, incomplete, flawed, deeply personal, and after extended period quietly present.